Welcome back to another edition of Higher Education Today. I'm your host, Stephen Roy Goodman. I'm here at Alfred University in Western New York, where we're going to be speaking about the intersection between ceramics and ceramics engineering. And I've got with me three guests today. Gabby Gaustad, who is the Dean of the School of Engineering here at Alfred, Mark Zupan, who's the President of Alfred University, and Lauren Lake, who's the Dean of the School of Art and Design. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you so much.
Delighted to be here.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for your hospitality. Gabby, if we can start with you. I don't think the average person knows that much about ceramics engineering. Could you tell us, what is ceramics engineering?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was one of them when I was a high schooler. And the first time I came to Alfred, I think I had the idea, like most people do, that you think about the dishes you're eating off of, or you think about a toilet or a sink, right? Some simple functional ceramics. And yes, ceramic engineers make all of those things as well. But I think what the average person doesn't understand is all the incredible high-tech applications that ceramics are used for. Most of our grads are actually going into the aerospace industry, automotive, healthcare, semiconductor, integrated electronic packaging. All of those things rely heavily on ceramics. So they're actually around you in all of the things that you use day to day, surprisingly.
Now, what about a cell phone cover? Is that a ceramics engineering product?
Yeah, absolutely. So glasses are under the umbrella of ceramics as well, although don't tell the glass scientists that. They like their little niche as well. And of course, there's glass ceramics. So like an average cooktop would be a glass ceramic, so combining both of those things together. But yes, the cover on your cell phone is currently made of glass, especially if you have an iPhone, that's Gorilla Glass, that was invented in partnership with Corning Incorporated, but by Alfred University graduates that work there.
Well, fair enough. And Mark, since we are at Alfred University and you are the president, how does ceramics engineering and ceramics fit into the curriculum here generally?
We're going to be celebrating the 125th year of the New York State College of Ceramics. We're known as Silica Valley, not Silicon Valley, because of all the clay deposits. We had an affiliation with the Seventh-day Baptists at our founding. They were the group that fought for freedom of religion from the King of England. It took them 13 years to achieve it. It was a novel concept. They came over to Rhode Island, established that entity as the first place in the world to express freedom of religion. And then they kept moving west. And so there were some tough times in the late 1800s where there were 4 schools affiliated with the Seventh-day Baptists. And our plan A was to appeal to be the flagship university of the group. We pitched it, it didn't work. So like the Three Amigos movie, we went back to the drawing board. What are we really good at? And we realized we're rich in clay deposits. And we appealed to then Governor Teddy Roosevelt, who approved it, as did the state legislature. And since that time, ceramics has been a hallmark of Alfred University, both in the arts and in engineering, and very applied, hands-on, contributing to local industry. And the return on investment has been significant. Everything from space shuttle tiles to the vials that COVID vaccines recently have been transported in, to artificial limb replacements, joint replacements, wide-ranging uses in some of the world's leading ceramic art and glass art has ties to Alfred University.
Well, that's terrific. And Lauren, since you're the dean, how do you interact with everybody else here?
Well, as the dean of the School of Art and Design at Alfred University, I interact with Gabby as the unit head for the New York State College of Ceramics, and her role as VP for research. And with our students, the School of Art and Design is a program that was founded first in ceramics, but has become a top school in the country for innovation through art. And that mixture between engineering and art, the innovation and creativity that happens every day in the studios and in the labs, really create a perfect landing spot to be side by side working together.
And in terms of the land, can you say a little bit about the land and why clay is so important in this part of New York?
Well, in the 20th century, 2 things happened around ceramics. One was the high point of the ceramics art, ceramic pottery movement, as well as the artists were really kind of pushing the boundaries, artists such as Peter Volkov, who were some of the teachers who taught our faculty, and this legacy continues. But the land here in Alfred is rich of shale. And so that shale was a very important draw for these companies, such as the Glidden Pottery Company and so and others who landed here in Alfred. So even today, our students are going out and mining their own clay as part of that research with engineering students. And so clay comes from the ground. It's a common denominator. It unites everyone around the world, and everyone is touching clay in some fashion every single day, whether it's through, as Gabby said, through the use of their toilet, but through dishes and through ceramic ware. Everywhere you look, there's something that is made of ceramics, and the connection between ceramics and engineering and design is really is really baffling in terms of the depth and breadth of where that dirt came, where the dirt came is, and then how that's transformed through innovation.
Well, let's speak a little bit about that innovation. And Gabby, so let's say I was a high school student somewhere, and I'm kind of interested. I don't know what I'm going to do, and I kind of am interested in engineering, maybe. So what kind of innovation will you talk about here and teach about and focus on?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think some people hear about ceramic engineering, they think that sounds kind of niche, right? But in reality, you're getting this skill set, foundational skill set if you come here for your education through both our curriculum and extracurricular activities to really go into a lot of different areas, whether you're focusing on research or you're manufacturing and looking at processing, or you're trying to understand the properties of these materials. We like to say everything's made of something. And so if you're doing material science, ceramic engineering, glass, you're surrounded by these things, right? And you're really creating completely new materials. And a lot of advances in computer science have enabled this even more, right? So we're actually feeding an algorithm recipes of materials that result in some set of properties. And now through machine learning and other computer algorithm kinds of approaches, we can really just push the boundaries of that, right? And have the computer help us come up with new compositions, create these new materials that have completely different properties. And a lot of that inspiration comes from being at the College of Ceramics, where the engineers are working hand in hand with artists and vice versa. So I've been at a lot of tech-heavy schools, which are fantastic, and I had a great time, learned a lot at those places, but nothing is ever compared to my undergraduate experience at Alfred, which is part of why I came back to be dean, because being surrounded by so many creative types to push engineers outside of the boxes that we sometimes like to live in is just truly unique and exceptional. And I think because of that, our engineers are able to become so much more innovative by working closely with artists.
That's interesting. What about creating something that might be dangerous to mankind?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, certainly we have to think about moral and ethical obligations as both engineers and artists. It's an important part of what we try to teach our students as well, is to grapple with those things. For example, we have many defense-related projects here. So back in the 70s, a lot of our faculty then were active designing ultra-high temperature ceramic materials for the NASA shuttle tiles. And now hypersonics are a large research area as well for ultra-high temperature ceramics. And certainly, there's that danger of creating something that's a weapon. We really try to stay away from that. We try to stay on the defense side of defense research. But it's something that you have to think about when you're creating new materials and pushing boundaries. And so thinking about critical thinking around ethical obligations is a part of our curriculum.
And maybe I can throw this to all of you. What about the use of materials that are in the ground? Because once we get rid of those materials, they don't exist anymore.
I think it's really interesting if we think about, the beginning of ceramics and clay art in the Neolithic age, right, where items were created to store food or store water. We fast forward to now, and the innovations that have happened. Well, we could probably stop and pause, really thinking about the ancient Greeks, for instance, who explored culture and explored values through the creation of innovative of glazes, for instance, and to now thinking about innovation that's happening, that 3D printed buildings out of clay, 3D printed printing porcelain in clay. And I think that the innovation that happens through ceramics is something that, if you think about clay as a material and what materials, ancient civilizations have and what we have now, that it's one of the most innovative materials that I can think of.
But will we run out of any materials at any point?
Well, I think artists and engineers today are not only thinking about kind of looping back to thinking about culture and values through the creation of new knowledge through art and through engineering, but one of the things they're also looking at is sustainability, more sustainable ways to fire the materials, more sustainable ways to recycle those materials, and so on and so forth. So it is something that contemporary artists and our engineers think about.
And along those lines, we're actually pushing the boundaries, like Lauren said, on promoting positive change from a sustainability perspective. Most glass doesn't get recycled. So we have researchers, including teams of students, working with the wine industry here in the Finger Lakes area to recycle glass. Gabby and her team are talking to a company on Long Island to 3D print the first building in the world made out of recycled glass. So instead of going into landfills, it's going into a constructive use. And we were just down in New York City for a press conference with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation that's been funding our Center for Glass Innovation on developing a new type of concrete, which we're incredibly excited about. And most people don't realize the concrete is not all that durable. And it accounts globally for 10% of the carbon emissions. It has three components: sand, water, and cement. And most modern concrete nowadays is made out of Portland cement, which isn't that durable. The ancient Romans had figured out how to make concrete more durable using volcanic ash. And what our team has done in the Center for Glass Innovation is figured out a way to mimic what the ancient Romans did using recycled glass, which promises to have a huge impact on global sustainability. And it's a win-win-win all around. We were down there as Hurricane Debbie was coming on shore in a massive downpour, and these coupons, these caissons that are being created by our team will be used to promote seawalls. As with rising sea levels, that's a growing issue. So being able to have durable concrete that also protects where humans live, it's going to have a huge impact. And keep thinking back to the movie Graduate, where Dustin Hoffman is told plastics are the future. And if I was talking to a high school student nowadays, I'd be saying ceramics. So
I thought you were going to go farther than that. I thought you were going to say, well, Alfred University is trying to bring us back to the Roman era.
in a way, we are back to the future, yes.
That's really interesting. How do you interact with the people in this part of New York State? So Alfred University, like other universities, has to function with their neighbors. How do you get along with your neighbors, and how do your neighbors get along with you?
Gabby, you want to talk about the wine recycling effort?
Sure, absolutely. So as part of that project where we're really trying to tackle challenges of recycling, particularly in New York State, we have a project where we're partnering with wineries in the Finger Lakes to explore whether wine bottle reuse might be an option. So a lot of the folks running those wineries are already very environmentally minded, very interested in sustainability initiatives. They hate having to see their wine bottles end up in landfills. And so we're working in partnership with Department of Environmental Conservation to explore a facility that would be able to collect those, wash them, steam clean them, and then give them back to the individual wineries there to reuse. So keeping them from even having to be processed at all. So we're excited about the potential for that. And once we have a little initial success there, we're looking to expand that project onto Long Island.
That's interesting. I was also referring to, if we could talk about the town-gown relations a little bit generally. So how does Alfred interact with the local area and vice versa?
Instead of town versus gown, which is the typical conception, we're stronger town and gown. And COVID brought us closer together. We're the only place in the United States that we know of that there are more higher ed institutions than stoplights. There's one stoplight in town. We just celebrated its 50th anniversary. There are 2 higher ed institutions. And COVID, one of the positive things, and there were a few positive things, but it brought the community closer together and made us realize how much stronger. The Washington Post just named us the collegiate town in the United States. When school is in session, 82% of the population is comprised of students of the 2 institutions. The next closest place is down in Texas at 69%. So how to capitalize on the vibrancy, and whether it's students working in the village, the arts are a key part that draw tourists to the area, that make the quality of life that much stronger. We have a monthly art walk that our School of Art and Design organizes. And then area businesses, Corning Incorporated, it's not that far away. They were stunned a few years ago when they looked at the universities that their employees came from, and we were by far and away the top of the list. Partly proximity and building that partnership over time, but partly it's the talent and what they do. We have had alums there that helped them develop how to transmit voice and data by fiber optic cable, in addition to the Gorilla Glass that Gabby mentioned. So we're stronger together.
We also have a really rich summer program at Alfred across the various units, so high school institutes and workshops, and that is a town gown opportunity that we feel that our local businesses really appreciate. Artists and designers and writers and musicians coming to our village every year to celebrate the arts, as well as do really interesting research projects with Gabby and her faculty.
Well, that's a really interesting point. I'm glad you raised that. So let's say I was thinking about getting involved in ceramics in some way, and I was a high school student. What would you recommend that I study and do besides come to the Summer Institute here?
Well, coming to the Summer Institute is great, but we encourage students to get involved with arts, whether it's 2-dimensional arts, 3-dimensional arts. Our program is interdisciplinary, so students can choose their path through the program. We have students that want to come here just for ceramics, and they can choose that path. But we also have a really multidisciplinary intersectional program, which is a very unique program that gives students a lot of space and a lot of opportunity to work really close with our faculty mentors. And we really feel that mentorship program, whether you're in high school, working really close with a community mentor, or perhaps, your high school teachers or your high school art teachers, just getting involved with creating things that never existed before. I mean, that's really what our common path is that, we create new knowledge in, through, and about engineering and ceramics and ceramic engineering. And if students are doing that, whether they're working in the theater, whether they're on a sports team, they're gaining confidence, and they're learning skill sets such as time management and dedication and teamwork. And we really feel that those are the types of skills that we want to see in our students. We're a portfolio optional school. At the same time, we have at our undergraduate level, at the same time, our graduate program is the top graduate program in ceramics and has held that seat for a good 20 years, Mark. And so, the graduate program is a little bit more elite. The undergraduate program is elite, but we're looking for the whole student. And Alfred University is always looking for the whole student. We want the student who comes here to study ceramics, but also might be on the rugby team. The student who comes here to study ceramics, but might want to do a minor in physics or in dance. So it's a really perfect place for students with all kinds of experiences to engage.
And Gabby, for a student who's a high school student who's thinking about ceramics engineering, what sorts of things would you like them to do?
I mean, interestingly, a lot of it's very similar. So we're looking for students that like to use their hands. A lot of times that translates to interest in the arts, creating things. Of course, taking STEM classes is going to help get you into great shape. We're looking for students who have taken some calculus, maybe it's just pre-calculus, but have gotten into some of the higher level math, is very passionate about chemistry and physics. So students who really enjoy those kinds of things, that usually translates really strongly into doing well and enjoying a career in ceramic engineering or material science.
Well, here comes the hard question. Mark, maybe if I could throw this to you. So let's assume there's a student somewhere and he or she says to his mom or dad, you know, I'm thinking about ceramics and ceramics engineering, and the parents don't know anything about it whatsoever. And they say, well, you know, we really want you to go get a job. How do you, in a few seconds, say, well, you know, maybe this is not so bad to explore this?
Alums will tell you from the engineering side that their employment rate's 140%. That's how much in demand the talent. We just had a new trustee join who gave our convocation address, class of 1993 BFA graduate, and now he's the leader at the top creative marketing agency, $200 million in annual revenue, 55 offices around the globe. His father had some doubts, you know, what would the professional outcomes be? But nowadays, very encouraging and wishes he'd been more encouraging at the time of what his son's been able to accomplish. And our fundamental mission is boiled down to 5 words: helping students realize their purpose. People with purpose live longer, are happier, have better family lives, do well professionally. So, and in a smaller environment allows that to happen. The multiple pathways you can explore, because we are looking for individuals like both Lauren and Gabby mentioned that have multiple interests, curricular to co-curricular. Gabby, in addition to engineering, had an art interest and an art minor when she was a student here. And then you don't get lost. In larger places, you're one of 400 people in a chemistry class. Here, our smaller size, our faculty know you by name. We'll be able to see if you're struggling with a concept, or be able to say, Gabby, you're really good at this. You ought to think about going to MIT to get a PhD in material science, which coming here, it wouldn't have been probably a natural occurrence. One of our top ceramic engineering alums ended up creating Marvel Entertainment and selling it to Disney for $4.5 billion. But one of his pathways was he brought Simon and Garfunkel to campus, so he was a big social animal. But he had faculty mentors, gave him his traction, goes off to serve the country in the Navy, then to Harvard Business School to earn an MBA. He's done pretty well in his life, and we've got a marvelous equestrian center now, courtesy of Peter Cuneo and his wife Maris.
Terrific. And where do you think ceramics and ceramics engineering are going? What direction are we going in as a society?
That's a great question. You know, I mentioned how advances in computation are really driving things much more quickly now. And so I think that we're going to see innovation happening at an even more rapid scale. And I think ceramics will play a really important role in that. And because of a lot of our focus on sustainability, you know, we're really trying to think out to what the issues will be, right? And then come up with materials and processes and, you know, different innovations to address those challenges that are coming down the road. So demand has been increasing. Unfortunately, on the higher ed side of things, there's only 3 ceramic engineering programs left in the US. So just to speak to the demand that Mark had mentioned, you know, if you go out and get a mechanical engineering degree, that's awesome. You're also going to get a job. It's a great time to be an engineer. But, you know, you're going to be competing with, you know, several 100,000 graduates that have that same degree. There's only 50 to 65 ceramic engineers graduating every year in the United States. So demand for those skill sets is ultra high. So our grads are getting multiple offers. Purpose is our mission, but the pay doesn't hurt either. Because of all that demand, their outcomes are excellent in terms of salary and sign-on bonuses and stipends for housing and things like that. So, you know, really all of that innovation and things that are happening and the place that ceramics already has in that will continue to drive that demand for students with that skill set.
And Lauren, where do you think ceramics is going?
Well, I think we've come a long way since putting our fingerprint in clay. As I mentioned before, I think that ceramics will continue to bring culture to the world, functionality through innovation, and I feel that ceramics it's pretty hot right now in terms of the art world, right? It's become more accessible for folks. It's become more it's almost like we're going backwards at the same time we're going forward, right? Expression of culture and values, expression of functionality, solving the world's challenges. I mean, artists artists are people who think outside of the box. And I think the combination of artists and engineers are the people that are going to really figure out the wicked challenges of the future. And we actually don't know what those are yet, but we're training our students to, think through, think with materials. And it's just, I don't know if I can see the future because I think it's just so wide.
People with purpose not only have found something that's meaningful to them, but they're engaged in an activity that makes the world a better place. So we have an exhibit opening up at our Alfred Ceramic Art Museum, which is one of the leading ceramic art museums in the world, by Hong Wei Lee. And it's this amazing glass, metal sculptures that he's created. He and his family are bicontinental. Half the year they're in Beijing, half they're in Alfred. He's an MFA grad of ours, and they so much love Alfred that their two sons, one is named Alfred, and one is named Foster for nearby Foster Lake, where they had their wedding.
Well, that's a great way to end this. We can't promise that everybody who watches higher education today is going to find their spouse by studying ceramics and ceramics engineering, but it's a start.
We're a full-service university.
Full-service university. If you would like additional information about this full-service university, please go to alfred.edu. If you would like to send a note to me at the show, please go ahead and do so by sending an email to highereducationtoday@topcolleges.com. And thank you for watching. We will continue to bring you quality discussions about important matters in today's college and university world. I'm Stephen Roy Goodman, and you've been watching Higher Education Today.